Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. It's great to have you here, and it is a great day to be alive. I'm so pleased that you've joined me today. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I've got a really good topic and I wouldn't want you to miss it. And plus, it just makes me happy when you tune in. So thank you for that. Now, before I get into today's topic, I want to invite you over to the Heal Your Hunger Tribe. This is a Facebook group that's private, and it's for emotional eaters only. It's for people who, or if you just struggle with food and weight and you want some company, you want to be around people who get what it's like to fight with a cookie, join us there at the Heal Your Hunger Tribe. I've got great interviews, great updates on what we're doing with Heal Your Hunger. You'll be the first to find out about it. Guest speakers, and really continued conversation of what you hear here in the on the podcast. So please join me there. Just punch in Heal Your Hunger Tribe on Facebook and request to join, and we'll probably let you in. Also, if you're not sure if you're an emotional eater, jump over to Heal Your Hunger. You can take a quiz, the Emotional Eater Quiz, and it'll tell you exactly where you are on the spectrum, because I think, let's face it, we're all emotional eaters to some degree. We're hardwired to have an emotional connection with food. You're not alone. But some of us do take it too far. So find out where you're on the spectrum, whether you're an emotional eater or a food addict or somewhere in between, and then what you can do about it. So take the quiz, recommend it to your friends, and let's get started on a solution. Okay, for today's topic, follow your happy. This came up because I have a friend who a couple days ago said, Tricia, it's okay for you to be happy. That's what she said. She said, Tricia, it's okay for you to be happy. And I thought, oh, wow. Am I still holding myself back? And she obviously perceived something in me where I was holding myself back. And it's so typical for emotional eaters. And I'm frankly so much happier than I ever have been in my life. But still, this I think is very common for emotional eaters. And that's why I want to talk about it here today, because, we do hold ourselves back, and we do have the belief that, oh, it's too good to be true. This can never last. Waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? We've got that programming that's just wants to hold back and is afraid to just expect the best. We're afraid to be happy. We're afraid to live in joy. Somehow we think there's a virtue of, sort of being miserable. And so we are miserable, and we don't want to live that way. It's not what you really want, obviously. And I will say, when we're in the food, when we're overeating, we are miserable. I mean, there's nothing more misery making than being addicted to food and being in the food and owned by the food, owned by every cookie and piece of candy that you see in the office, in the break room, at home. It's like when we're owned by that stuff, and when we can't stop eating, when we're up late at night binging, stuffing ourselves and waking up with that terrible food hangover, that is miserable, okay? And it's very hard to be happy when we're in the food. And that's why I want so much for you to join us with Heal Your Hunger and really overcome emotional eating. But, emotional eating doesn't just happen, right? So often it comes from deeper emotions. What's eating me? It's not what I'm eating, it's what it's eating me. So what is eating me? Well, emotional eaters are fraught with so many emotions, so many buried emotions. I know for myself, I was burying my emotions like as far back as I can remember. I think I made a decision at some point in my life. My family life was not bad by any means, but there was a lot of pain swirling around. We were all in pain, all unconscious of that pain, but in so much pain and anesthetizing. Both my sisters were emotional eaters. My dad and mom drank quite a lot. They weren't out of control, but they had a steady diet of rum and tonics every single night. So we were all kind of numbed out, trying to escape the pain that we were in. And this is very typical for emotional eaters, because, we typically don't just come out of the chute as addicted to food, but we do, absorb pain from our family life and from trauma that we experience. So we've got this pain, we've got this fear, we've got this guilt. These are underlying drivers of emotional eating. And if we have this stuff, it's hard to be happy, okay? It's hard to live joyously. So, number one thing I recommend to you is deal with that stuff. Don't carry it around any longer. And we do that in Heal Your Hunger in the Freedom from Emotional Eating program. So, if you want to unburden yourself from your pain, definitely check that out, because that's what we do is we throw off the shackles of pain, fear, and guilt so we can live and dance in freedom. And so that's step number one, is to really, in whatever way, you're able, get rid of that burden of emotion, that buried emotion, that does keep you back and hold you back from being happy. But beyond that, let's talk about that deep lying belief that somehow we shouldn't be happy. And I have had this, I've had this. And I think a lot of it comes from self-judgment also. I was this outgoing, happy-go-lucky kid. I had a lot of fun. I laughed a lot. I made people laugh. And I just was, bright. And then I got dark because I got, in adolescence and overeating and pain in my early, my late teens and early 20s. And I just was carrying this burden, didn't know how to get rid of it. And what's happened over the course of my life since I've dealt with that stuff is I've become that bright, happy, sunshiny person that I originally was. Okay. And the beautiful thing is I became that person without having to use food to allow me to do it, or alcohol to allow me to do it, or drugs or whatever. Completely drug free here. And it, it's so nice that God works through me. And I am that person I so wanted to be, that I somehow had to pretend to be. And that's this process of healing. This is what happens, is you become the person God means for you to be. You can live joyfully. You can live in a lighthearted way. You can have just meaningful relationships and connection, and you don't have to induce it by some chemical or food. And that's the most amazing thing. So yes, it is your birthright to be happy. Yes, you can be happy. Yes, you got to do some work to get rid of the stuff that's in the way of God flowing through you. But it is absolutely possible to just be, jump out of bed in a happy frame of mind, And so I really want that for you. But I also want you to know from the, bottom of your being, from your toes, that it is your birthright. And to start using happiness is a way to really measure or check yourself on what your right path is. So what I believe about happiness is I believe that that sense of happiness and joy that comes from within, that's not induced by something that we ate or drank, but that happiness, I believe, is God. It's an expression of God, okay? And what's super cool about that is that we can start to use happiness as a way to check whether something is the right move for us, something is the right path for us. So when we check by, hey, does this make me happy? We can start to get a sense of what God's will is for us. For so long I didn't know what God's will was. And I got all twisted up of trying to understand God or know about God. And I'd look for pennies on the ground. I'd look for signs and clues. And, I really believe it's simpler than that. And prayer, I'm a full believer in prayer and meditation and writing and reading and things that can help you tap into your God spirit and to know what your right path is. But sometimes it's just as simple as, what brings me joy? What brings me happiness? Now, I don't know if you've read the book or heard of the book by Marie Kondo, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. But this is an amazing best-selling book. It has close to 15,000 reviews on Amazon. And I have had so many friends tout this book. Now, I've never read this book. I've just heard about it so many times and heard what the fundamental principle of it is, that I'm all in. But I should probably read the book as well. It would help me, since I am not as tidy as I'd like to be. But in this book, Marie Kondo talks about how when you have clutter, when you have things in your life that you've held on to, you go through, and tidying up, you go through and you evaluate each item and you say, does this bring me joy? What is my emotional, what's the emotional charge here with this item? Does it bring me joy? If it doesn't bring me joy, get rid of it, throw it out, take it to Goodwill. Okay, and that's how you tidy up. You basically only keep the things that bring you joy. It's kind of a Zen book, and this is sort of a Zen lesson, which is a beautiful lesson. So I want to bring this forward to every aspect of your life and say that when you are in a quandary about something, when you don't know what path to take, when you don't know what person to hang out with or what restaurant to go to or what class to take or what profession to pursue or degree, listen, check with yourself. What brings you joy? What would make your heart sing? What speaks to your heart? We don't do this enough, especially as emotional eaters. We're so in our heads, right? We're always thinking. But that's not the way to find your heart and to be guided by your heart. And so what you need to do is start checking in. And again, prayer, meditation, and writing, A+ tools for helping you to get out of your head and into your heart. But check in, like, is this something that will make my heart sing? So many times we're doing things that aren't ours to do and that we really shouldn't be doing. I don't know if you've heard the expression, I was spending money I didn't have to buy things I didn't want to impress people I didn't like. I mean, how often do we do that? It's cute, but how often do we really do that? We end up, with all these things in our calendar of, events and projects that have nothing to do with our joy. Like, they don't bring us joy and we're just trudging through life. This is how we end up overeating, okay? Is that we are bogged down with obligation and doing these things that have nothing to do with who we really are and what we're meant to do on this planet. And so we're burdened, we're tired, we're resentful for sure. We're hating somebody on account of these things that we're doing that we shouldn't be doing. We're hating ourselves, of course, but we're usually blaming someone else for getting us into this thing. But, the fact is, when we're feeling that burdened over the things, that we've committed to, that leads to overeating. That's directly related to our eating at the end of the day. Having the I deserve it binge. That's because we feel unappreciated, unloved, not paid enough, and we're pissed off, and we treat ourselves to that binge food because we figure we deserve it. But really, there's a better way to live. There's a better way to live, and that's to start getting cleaning up the messes. Talk about tidying up our lives. What's on your calendar that shouldn't be there? What are you doing that has nothing to do with your joy? And start asking yourself, if somebody wants to go to coffee, check with yourself. Is this something I really can devote 90 minutes to? And it's not that people aren't worthy of our time. Everybody's a child of God, but we only have 24 hours, and how we spend it and who we spend it with is vitally important to our life energy and to feeling joyful, so we don't end up, paying for it at the end of the day. So ask yourself, is this 90 minutes, this precious time, is this the best use of that time? Is this going to bring me joy? Raising our hand for a project on the PTA or in the office, if we don't have to raise our hand and it's something we don't want to do, maybe we should consider leaving it for somebody else because it doesn't bring us joy, or it's not our zone of genius. It's not going to be something that we enjoy doing or be good at doing. Leave it to somebody for whom it's a perfect fit. And we don't do that enough. We just muddle through saying yes to everything and then regretting it. So I really want to invite you to follow your happy, okay? Just follow your happy. And if it doesn't bring you joy, let it go. If it doesn't strike your fancy, let it go or say no. When you're guided by your happy, you're being guided by God. Okay, God is that happy. That little spark of happiness and energy comes from God. Now, I'm not talking about the temporary hit of eating an ooey gooey chewy food. Okay, so let's be clear. This doesn't translate to food most of the time, because even though eating chips and dip might make you happy, even though eating, a fudge brownie or 5 might seem to make you happy, by the end of the night, it doesn't. It makes you miserable and feel bloated and wish you hadn't done that, right? So I'm not talking about just momentary bliss, quick fixes of ooey gooey chewy foods, because if you think about it, if you're an emotional eater and you go too far, you're not going to feel happy. You're going to feel really mad at yourself. So play it out, and say, does this make me feel truly good about myself? Do I feel good about my choices, or am I just looking for that quick happy right then? So that's not the happy I'm talking about. I'm talking about the feeling of fulfillment and joy and warmth in your heart, and just feeling like life is good. Fill your life with those kinds of projects, things that are aligned with you. God made us all as unique beings. And when we follow our happy, we are following that unique pattern, that unique DNA, of course, that God planted in us. I mean, however, I don't mean to get off into some topic about, how we came about, but the fact is that I believe we have a spirit. I believe we have an energetic fit with everything in our life. And when we don't, we end up very unhappy. We sometimes get sick, and of course we overeat. So find that energetic fit for you by asking yourself, does this make me happy? Will this make my heart sing? Is this something that's been on my heart for a long time that's presenting itself, in which case I should say yes. If it's something I've been dreading and not wanting to do, and it's not even like the right fit for me, ask yourself honestly, get honest about it. And even though you might be afraid to say no to somebody, go ahead, follow your happy by saying no to the things that don't make you happy. So I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I hope you're picking up what I'm laying down here. So important to follow your bliss and your happy, because that's when you will be happiest. That's when you'll be the most self-caring and self-loving. And that's when people will see and feel your light that's shining so bright. So follow your happy. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have you here. Please comment on this in the Heal Your Hunger tribe. Let's keep the conversation going on what truly is your happy. And let's encourage each other to follow our happy. Thank you. I love you. I'll see you on the next show. Take care.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.